This is a birth chart reading for Eliza. Eliza, you'll see your birth chart here on the screen. So, the chart that I was sent that has a few more points, I've simplified to leave the major players of the birth chart. And then hopefully at the end here, if I haven't gone on and on too much, we can pull up some of those because if you put them all, so the one that was in the messenger has asteroids and fixed stars too. And while I think you could look at everything and it does all influence us when we're looking at our birth chart, I feel like it's best to try to keep it as simple as you can at first, just to get the key energies integrated and feel how they're really working to validate motivations for behavior and understandings, the key themes of the chart. When they're all in there competing for attention, I feel like it pulls you away from the main messages. So this is how I go. We can put them back in at the end, or I can do another reading to go over the little things that are still fun to know about. But the chart that I have in front of us is the one that I want to spend the time on because I feel like I said that is what helps really ground the main points. And when we're trying to talk about the story of you, we want to make sure that we don't miss the main points because we're caught up on side tangents. One of the main points that I like to look at is just to see what the shape of your chart looks like. And this and this aren't real planets or luminaries. Neither is this one. So when I look at your chart without those, you have what is called a bowl style shape of a chart. So that means that continuously from one house all the way down, we see there's no real big gaps in energy. So for you, that's what an exclusion here of the 12th house, but it still gives us the bowl because all of your energies are on one side here of the chart. So since it happens to be on this side of the chart, we would say this implies that you are the type of person who is really an influential person on others. So even though this is the Western side, since the orientation is to Earth, this is actually the Eastern hemisphere of your chart. And the Eastern hemisphere is devoted to somebody who is learning about themselves through themselves more. And if it was the other side of the chart, we would say that you learn about who you are through your interactions with other people. So you're less likely to do that. You're more likely to learn about who you are through yourself, your experiences, your perceptions of what's going on with you, versus the other side of the chart, which would be your relationships. So this is a chart that right away I get these strong feelings that you have a lot that you want to become in this life. You want to show yourself what you're made of in this life. And the energy of someone with so much influence on this side is that you have a lot internally and you have these retrograde outer planets here, they're in red, that are kind of like the brakes on that. So in life, you might find that you have a lot of enthusiasm or vigor or goals or great visions. And sometimes the outer life experiences or rules or restrictions or authorities in your life say it's not the time. Wait, we're slow down. We're not doing that yet. And in working together with your nodes, which I believe is the soul's journey, there has been this break almost put on your ability to self-express, which is your fifth house here. We'll see Chiron is part of a wounded healer journey in our charts. And for you, That speaks a lot to this whole theme of your chart. And I can't help but open with that. And I hope that doesn't confuse you too much right away, because I usually start with talking about the big three, your sun, your moon, and your rising sign. But in your chart, it is just so much, it just feels like there's just so much that's trying to get out and express and do. And this competing wall of like, you can't, or not right now, or wait, that it just feels like that needed to be said first. So let's back up a few steps and we'll go to all that again later. I just tend to follow whatever is competing to get out first. But you are a Sagittarius rising, and that means that you have a Jupiter ruled chart. And Saturn, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. That's how I get there. And what's interesting again for you is that you're also in a conjunction here with Saturn. So, although your chart is really ruled by Jupiter, it is forming this super energy with Saturn, and they both sit right at the top of your chart. It's like I can't talk about one thing in your chart without talking about like a whole idea. Your chart really moves together. So, despite your Mars, most of your chart works with other energies a lot to get the whole process of what it's trying to achieve here. And I believe you co-create your chart, and I believe that you have an equal amount of go get 'em and should I be doing this? You have a very much I want to accomplish as much as I can, and then let me think about this. I want to make sure my head's on straight kind of attitude. And since that is the chart ruling energy of you, those are both really big planets. So you just have like this really like larger than life energy that you can give people. And it's like your presence really has like its own orbit of other things. For somebody who doesn't have a lot of like fire in their chart, I feel like you give off the impression of somebody who does, because this rising sign being ruled by these massive planets, it's like you are really a force. And you also rope in Neptune, which is another huge planet. And it's like you have so much of this like magnetism about you that you're like, you can't be missed, even as much as maybe sometimes you want to be. The Neptune on the angle like that, and your Jupiter on this angle, just anytime there's a planet on an angle in our chart, it really wants to be seen. It's really going to influence who you are. And it's interesting because these are both planets that um, have like a spiritual connotation or message with them. So there's a lot of up here, this is where we're going in life. This is our MC. This is like what we aspire to be, our potentials, ultimately our reputations and our vocations that we followed in life. And so with Jupiter sitting right here, which is your chart ruler, you have this spiritual understanding, or you will, of trusting in divine timing, of understanding that things happen when they're supposed to, and that we're not really in charge of when things are going to happen, but that you're waiting for the right season of life or the right cycle of things to come back to you before acting on it. And that's really a great position for Jupiter to be in, because you can have this trust that it is going to help you in a positive way. And since that's your chart ruler in Sagittarius, which is sometimes more of an impulsive energy, I think this gives you a little bit more of a maturity sitting at the top there, that you understand that good things come in time. And next to Saturn right here, it's basically both of them sitting on your MC. So you give people this impression of you, your reputation, if I ask you what you do for a living, the answer that you give me is the MC. And in your case, you are give off this impression of someone who is mature and reliable in the public eye. Whether or not that is actually who you are, because as a Sagittarius rising with Neptune right there, sometimes your actual personality might not really be in that way, but in the professional world or as you mature, you really have this great capability of being a mature, competent, self-motivated, and even disciplined member of society. And I think that is very powerful for you because it's also in the sign of Libra, which is Saturn's exalted state, which means that it's best case. So Saturn loves being in the sign of Libra. It sees both sides before it acts. It understands that other people have opinions too, and you don't want to burn the whole thing down, that it's a responsible and fair in its actions. So that being your MC lets everybody else know that when you are in a position of authority or whatever the top of your self-expression is going to be, you do so in a way that seems fair-minded and just for others. And justice and fairness is going to be a really important values in this life for you. You really, with a Sagittarius rising, you are very interested in justice, of getting truth and what is deserved of yourself and others. You really don't like to see people get a bad deal, especially when it comes to like law systems, rules, any type of place where there is some type of law and order. You're really gonna be bound to that, and you're really going to want to see that be applied to everyone, that people aren't just getting away with things, or that you're not getting the raw end of the deal, or people you care about didn't get just lost in the system. It's really important to you that these things hold up in all areas of society and your life and the lives of people you care about. So I wouldn't be surprised if you work in some type of area of law or some type of legal job, whether that means that you're some type of like mediator for people who are trying to make the law work for both sides. Like in divorces, you see someone have to be the mediator so everybody can get what they want, but it's in a legal setting. Or even some type of defender, like an attorney type or prosecutor, something where there are laws and rules, and you are helping make that happen, and that you're part of keeping this system working. If that's not exactly how it is for you, you might still feel really heated up when you see like a show or news where it seems like someone broke the law and someone is trying to get the law to work for them. These type of situations really strike something inside of you because you believe in that, and you believe that, justice should be blind, that social rank or social, in economic status shouldn't have anything to do with that, that we should all be blind and it should be a system we can count on. So I go with that because of the Jupiter Saturn and Libra at the MC, but also because of your Sagittarius rising. And with you being a Neptune conjunct rising, I think that people sometimes might not know when they first meet you, like how really passionate you can be about things like that, like causes or fairness or rooting for the underdog. Like this Neptune energy sometimes has like a dream-like energy with it. You're almost like a crystal that just like reflects other people's energies. You absorb what the vibe is, and you can reflect it back to people. It's almost like this chameleon ability to really feel what other people are feeling and show it back to them and help them cope with that sometimes too. You can be very healing in when people first meet you that you're taking some of the burden off of them, or you're making it so easy for them to be seen and to feel like they can be themselves because you just have this quality in you that is is like disarming. It's non-confrontational when you first meet you. So to then later learn that you actually do stand for real strong beliefs maybe could be a surprise to some people because when you first come off to people with that Neptune energy, you have like this dreamlike or like this artist like kind of, like the photographer who's not really in the scene but understands where to get the best angle. Like you have this artist approach about you to how you are in these first new experiences. But ultimately, you have this, you have more than that. You perceive it first, but then you actually are using that information you gain to be accomplishing something. And I think that is just an interesting piece of your personality because if I didn't see your chart and I just knew you were a Pisces sun, Virgo moon, and a Sagittarius rising, I wouldn't really get that. And so I love that that's where your chart pulls me because there's a lot of air in you that isn't isn't very obvious. And that I feel like your whole chart is kind of saying that like there's so much to you that like isn't right away very obvious. It's like people have to get to know you and peel back another layer and there's something else there and there's this like elusiveness to your character that makes it seem like, well, I think I know her, but like, oh, like, wow, like, oh, like, there's another side. There's another side. It's like that refracting, like that that crystal energy, like where you pick up on the energy of other people and give it back to them. But there's also more in there once you open it up about you actually do have your own agendas and it's deeper in there and your chart really sets you up that the more time you spend on understanding your real internal motivations and what you're trying to do, the more that you have opportunity. But I think with this Neptune on your ascendant, you spend a lot of time, especially like what we just talked about. You might spend a lot of time in other people's affairs, not because you're trying to learn about yourself through people. I think you're already learning about yourself through yourself, but because there's this energy in you, this deeper understanding that you can help people, that you know something or you remember something, you've seen something, you've experienced something that can help somebody else's life who maybe is experiencing it for the first time. So I could see you getting pulled a lot to other causes. It's the Sagittarius rising approach to life, sort of to who needs me? Like, who do I need to put my superhero cape on for today? I am going to fix this world one traumatic story at a time until I've made everybody's lives who I can better. And that is a noble cause. But in your chart, it looks like you actually want to build a life that ultimately comes back to what you have to create and spending time and energy on that. That ultimately that will be the greatest gift to the world. And you are also doing many great things along the way. But what we are known for in the world is different than what our soul actually came here to do for ourselves. So I think your external expression of being there for others and for many, maybe in these causes or upholding these rules of society, um, you would want to pivot some of that energy to spend on your own personal self-expression with your only energy in Leo, which is our self-expression, being in your North Node, which is what we hope to become one day. that shows me that you spend a lot more of your energy with other people's needs, ideas, or society at large than on this individual level. So this is the person who could be like the altruist, the philanthropist. I might be saying that wrong, but the person who is spending their money, their time, their talents trying to build up the collective vibe or the community, handing out the blankets to the shelter and then freezing themselves. Like you want to be careful that you're not doing this at the cost of what you also came here to do yourself. So we see this as part of um, the kite here. This is getting a little bit more technical, but you have these great abilities to help your talents. And one of your big talents, what is your south node? You come into this world with this energy of like this golden stamp of achievement from your past life. You don't have to believe in past lives. It could be something in this life that you just mastered right away. Um, but yours is an Aquarius in the second house. So at some point, either in this life or we would say in the past life, you decided to hold on to this energy of Aquarius. You're really good at having these really visionary ideas and you know how to help a lot of people at once. And you can do so in this like almost rebellious way. You don't need people's approval to get started on something. You actually kind of get excited sometimes when somebody wants to try you on what you know is right for yourself or others that you care about. And in the second house, it can be sometimes about your financial security or other people's financial security. But usually, this is an energy that because of the things that you do, the big picture you can see, no matter what the everyday life is happening to you, you keep your eye on this bigger picture and you make things happen. And people in your world actually see that you can build yourself a life based on these big dreams that you have when nobody else thinks that's even possible. And in a past life, it would say that maybe you actually were really like wealthy because of it in your second house. You had everything you needed. You were a pillar of stability and even more. You were able to have some luxuries in life too because of the things that you did for yourself. So you come into this life, or as you move through this life, you see that you have these abilities. Well, your north node, where you want to go, the top of this kite, if you can see that, is your north node and it's in the eighth house. So now this is the opposite side of the chart. This is the things that you haven't done for yourself. This is through people that you know or relationships you've built. So this is saying at some point your soul really wants to experience what it's like to be so intimately connected to someone else that what you have is because of your relationship with them or in a co-effort together of getting this. So there's this vulnerability that you hope to achieve in this life. An Aquarius energy to a Leo energy is different in the way that Aquarius energy always has some type of an emotional detachment to their partnerships. They are so an intellectual energy that the feeling is not on the same level. They don't have the space to let their feelings really guide them because their intellectual side is so electric that it's just taking up all the energy. What they see, how they're going to get there, who they need to talk to, what ideas they need to share, pictures they need to draw. They're so busy being the architect of big dreams that they aren't connected to really the heart of why this got started, the spark of the creation that really set everything off. And you want that. You want to feel this like fire of creation. And you do this through like this vulnerable energy of feeling a passion and a warmth with another person. And I say just another person and not many people because the eighth house is more of an intimate vibe. And Aquarius is more concerned with like a lot of us, the whole group, where Leo is either just concerned with their own creation or the love that they give to those who are loyal to them and whom they are loyal to. So I see you being somebody who is curious about those people who really have like this super loyal commitment to someone and who because of that like their whole outlook is just one of real like optimism and even like a showing off a bit about like how special they are and their partnership is. And what you might consider flashy early on, you become to see that like actually I admire that. I want to know what it's like to be that proud of myself and someone else that I feel like I need to show it off and I need to be seen. So it might sound foreign, especially to a Pisces sun, to want to be seen, but that's where ultimately you are going in this life is into a place where you want to be seen and you want to be really proud in a great way, in a way that you were vulnerable enough to show who you really are. That when someone receives you for your true, authentic, creative self, your real self-expression of you, that you can be proud of that because you weren't rejected for it and you actually gave yourself enough time and space to allow that. And that's the gift of wherever Leo lands in your chart is that you're brave enough to be truly authentic and put yourself out there. Nothing's you're not guarded. You're really wearing your heart on your sleeve. And that's where this life takes you. And then in the eighth house, that would mean that it's just a really special connection with somebody else, that they truly see you through and through for who you are, and that they give you the that reciprocation of this loving energy that you probably already give to others, but that you're willing to accept it too. That's part of this is that the Leo is generous and warm, but that they also allow to receive that in return. And part of why I wanted to go through this Jupiter energy first was because we see Jupiter here in your chart so much. And Jupiter is our great benefactor of our chart. People want to know where that is because it means that, where are we being blessed? Where are we lucky? Even where can we take chances that we just know things are going to work out? And for you, I mean, that is your experience here. Like being conjunct Saturn, I don't doubt that you've had your share of struggles, but there's this energy about you that you do believe things are going to work out. And Jupiter brings that same energy to this north node. It's very strong. It's a 0 degree exact sextile, which is a favorable aspect. We don't believe that anything's really good or bad in a chart. It's just easier or it's more challenging, but they're all important and equal because you create this, right? Like this is what you needed to experience what you need to experience. And for you, this is a favorable aspect here that the more you take these chances of expressing yourself, the more it becomes comfortable and easy and favorable and like good things happen when you put yourself out there. So it's really a nice like safety net almost for doing this because the eighth house is not always our easiest house. Sometimes it's a spiritual house and sometimes dark things live in there. Sometimes people joke about like skeletons in the closet or generational baggage that we're carrying down through our ancestral lines of maybe the matriarch. And this is all of our spiritual houses have some type of ancestral or generational influences. But for you, your fourth house, which is where we come from, the roots of the tree of our birth chart, yours is empty, as well as your 12th house of like our spiritual in between. When we're through with this one, going to the next, or things that we kind of just shove away because we don't want to think about in everyday consciousness. So you are empty on both of those. That doesn't mean that those things don't matter to you. It's just that that's not where you're spending a lot of your energy. There's more free will here as the transiting sky makes its way through those houses, you'll have periods of your life where that is going to grab your attention more. But in your actual birth chart, that's not where you're spending a lot of time, with the exception of the eighth house, which has a north node. So this actually really matters to you. Your soul is hoping to develop this energy. So you actually have this very spiritual side, which you see in a Sagittarius rising with the Neptune. You have the ability to be in spiritual mindsets and be curious about things that you can't see. Sagittarius is the philosopher. They're the ones looking up at the night sky because they know that there's something bigger than us out there and they want to know what it is. And Neptune is our spirituality. It's our dream world, it's our escape, it's our fantasy, but it's also our deep love for the whole collective energy that is this universe. It's the energy that is everything, and it's the source energy. So you have this like like your pulse beats for this bigger than what we see energy, and you only want to experience that more. And in a fire sign of creation, you might have something in this metaphysical world that you contribute to. Is there something that you have to say on that? You have a ninth house full of energy here, which is an indicator of publishing or teaching or mentoring. And with the North House in the leadership energy of Leo, in the eighth house of the metaphysical, it's almost like you get through these experiences in life and it leads you to something uh, that you can't really explain, or you're not sure, but you just follow this calling and you just find yourself really inspired and trusting your intuition. And you wind up in a whole different path than you started on. So, that lines up perfectly with your sun sign. So, whatever minute we're into this chart reading, I'm actually on your sun sign now. So, you have a sun in Pisces in the second house, and you may not be surprised for me to say that I don't super think that our sun sign is always the most influential energy of our chart, because really the sun sign is a big deal, right? If we are Earth, we need the sun to live. But there's a lot of other things going on. So that's why I don't always go straight to the sun unless it's really involved in things. And for you, it's just not as tied into everything as some of those other Sagittarius, Jupiter kind of air energies. So if you don't always identify with being a Pisces, I could feel that. Your sun sign is in Pisces in the second house, which the second house in general is something that we grow into. So we say the first house is self. You breathe in your first breath, your rising sign. Anything that falls in the first house is the house of self. It's how you look, how you are perceived right away. It's kind of your signature. So when I talk about Neptune there, that's what you embody a lot of, which is great because it actually does rule Pisces. So that artsy, feely vibe is a Pisces vibe. So you might actually identify with that. But I see that Sagittarius optimism and a more like yang energy of getting out there, than it being more of that yin energy of like receiving. I see you being a little bit more active or outgoing maybe than a typical Pisces, but you never know. You could be both, right? We're all sorts of things. But the second house generally, if the first house is who we are, the second house is usually what we become once we think we've earned it. So it's our house of values, and it could be how we feel about ourselves, our like what we value. A lot of people value what they have or what they earn. So it could be our house of money, finances, our actual stability. It's the Taurus house. So you think of what Taurus represents of the things that we tangibly have. And when we have these, what we value, but it's also what we value in ourselves. So a lot of times it can be that we're still working on showing ourselves that we value ourselves. And so anything thrown in that house sometimes can feel like that. So we feel like we are working towards understanding how we feel about who we are and what we stand for. But I feel like for you, with all this other energy we already talked about, I feel like you have a better sense of self than other people with the sun in the second house. I think you have a better self-esteem and self-confidence too. So I don't think that's an issue for you, but I think that having mixed energies here between your sun sign and your Mercury can sometimes make you feel like you're pulled in a couple different directions. I don't think that this Pisces energy is just 100% through and through how you feel all the time. You have a very active mind. Mercury in Aquarius is like very on. Lots of thoughts, problem solving, puzzle pieces together, saving room for like just general lightning strikes of insight, a lot of eureka moments, and a lot of just like channeling information that you're not sure where it came from, but all of a sudden this knowingness and this need to like give a message. And with that on the Neptune too, I wonder if you have like mediumship abilities. If you ever hear or see or like feel connected to something, because this is a very, both of those feel like energies where you can receive messages. So I would just be curious to know if you've ever had like a moment just of knowingness of something that you can't explain, or hearing something that you don't know where it came from. And not like psychosis or anything, but just like one of the clear senses coming through. I could just see that being an experience for you. And and that would make sense for the Pisces sun too, just being connected to different frequencies than what the rest of us are on. You have a different ability to get messages, and if you're open to receiving them, that might be part of this eighth house metaphysical experience, that you have this curiosity to explore. If the second house is the earthly element of what we can see and build and have in this like 3D physical realm, the eighth house is spiritual. It's not tangible. It's not in our 3D awareness. It's beyond that. So these might be skills that you want to develop. And there's this confidence that comes with developing whatever your extra sensory gifts are or your spiritual interests are. So feeling like you're in two different spots because your Mercury and your Sun are two different signs. So how people perceive you, your sun sign, how you are externally validated in life of being like a caring person who's a good listener and deeply feels what other people feel without even having to put it into words. Like that's a very like psychic energy. But then you have this Mercury that's like it's a lot of words. You think in words and you speak in words and you can be very persuasive and you can be a great debater. You could solve puzzles. You can just be a great lyricist. You could write anything you want to. So it's like being both is interesting. You can be the great feeler that doesn't need words, but then your mind is full of words and thoughts that you work best when you share and collaborate, bounce your ideas off of others, see what comes back. And you need to be mentally stimulated all the time. So these can be very different energies. And then, in another way that you have very different energies, is that your moon sign, how we feel like emotionally secure and what we need to feel nurtured in self and how we really nurture our closest relationships is in Virgo, which is opposite. So it doesn't look like you were born on a full moon, but it was probably just about a full moon. It's a waning moon. And so you can see clearly a lot of people's points of views and perspective. You have this gift of having multiple abilities and strengths that give you a wider perspective in life and an ability to really empathize more with more people than just a small group. So you might feel spread out in your views then, but I feel like a Sagittarius rising always is going to have a strong set of what they believe is right and what they really stand for. And it's not a wishy-washy position. So your full moon opposition here isn't really fighting with itself. It's just including more people into your vision of awareness. I just think you have a really wide view of all these things that you care about and you're aware of and you can empathize with on some level. So it gives you a big playing ground for who you want to invest in, communicate with, be part of, because you could go a lot of different ways and people appreciate that in you, that you're not a what you see is what you get energy. You have a lot of different experiences, thoughts, feelings. um, you can be very grounded in the second house energy of being about the senses, about the 3D world. But then you have all the spiritual energy that can just be about the 5D and the collective and what we can't see and things that we don't have words for and the art. So it's just that you have everything kind of pulling you. It's like you really wanted to experience a lot of things, but it's almost that you wanted to be somebody that a lot of people could lean on or get advice from. You wanted to be open to people that you meet who really need like guidance or advice or somebody to just understand where they're coming from. It's like you wanted to have a little bit of energy for all of them. So you did. You kind of spread it out. Like, hey, you're going to see me as one thing, but then you're going to realize I have this other side and I can take all of you in and I can help or advise or just be a mentor or a role model for all of you. And then eventually you feel like comfortable there. That's the ninth house of emotional needs for yourself and being in this position of like a mentorship. You might find that you really do reach a lot of people and they are better for knowing you and you feel like you're actually nourishing something inside of you. So the more you are in touch with that, the more you make like this big grand trine here happy of this air grand trine. You have this part of fortune and you have your south node and you have Jupiter. And since some of these are not actual planets, depending on who you talk to, might not even call this a grand trine, but since it's here, it's a formula for opportunity. When you take the gifts that you came in with, your ability to reach a lot of people, to care for many different walks of life, and your optimism, your trust in divine timing, your general ability to lift people's moods with your presence, the more you actually gain in being fortunate yourself. This is the part of fortune. It's what we do to reveal our own fortunes. So it's say like in the sixth house, you might actually find a job or a skill that that is beneficial to you. It's not always money, but it just shows that you could, you have these houses of the financial earth houses. You have Venus in there and you have Pluto in the 10th, and it just shows like you have the potential to be somebody who makes a lot of money in this life. And when you use your skills and your good favor with people and position that you've earned, you can really you find that you're doing things to serve that really make you feel fortunate. And in Gemini, in that Virgo house, it's like a Mercury energy. So it's like being a messenger, a communicator, using your quick mind and your intellectual strengths to really bring you to fortunate positions in life. And it's interesting because really in your big three, you don't have air, but your chart is air dominant. So communication, thinking, writing, publishing, lecturing, all those things, editing, anything that has words or talking, being some type of motivational speaker, teacher, all those fields that this brings you good fortune and maybe financial gain because you are gifted in that and you know how to talk to people and you know how to listen and you know when to say something and when to not. And the more you grow on that, the more you have a lot of good things happen and that you feel beneficial because six is our house of service. So you feel like you're useful to other people. Um, I think that was the big part of what I wanted to talk about. Um, we do have Mars is standing alone here, and I mean that because it's not really talking to anybody. You have this faint line to your moon, but it's such a wide orb that I wouldn't call that a true opposition. You might feel emotionally pulled one way or another, or get frustrated by emotions sometimes. Virgo moon doesn't love the boohoo, sobbing, crying things. So when your sun sign feels emotional, I feel like Virgo moon people though, they want to be busy or doing something constructive. They don't really like pity parties. They don't want to sit around in their feelings forever. They kind of would rather just be working on the next thing. What's the next thing on the to-do list, or where was I in my work or studies, or even like workout routines. I know some Virgo Venus, or excuse me, Virgo moon people who are very like fitness oriented because it helps give them a better sense of like control and it makes their emotions feel more stable. So that could be something if you do ever feel like you have this opposition here. I would doubt that. I feel like Mars is more of a standalone energy for you, which means that your drive, like what you get excited about pursuing, or even so, this is our planet of war, what you get mad about, where you feel like you want to be like a hothead on somebody. It's in the third house, so if you have siblings or close friends, or you might find that you just have a funny like tickle for road rage because it's in that house. But it's a standalone, so it's free acting. It's not super leading you. It's not the key to accomplishing things. And then your Venus and Aquarius, I think that just, if we haven't talked about that enough, your love language, how you relate to others, is through like this humanitarian energy of really caring about a lot of people on a wide scale. So when it comes to interpersonal relationships, though, sometimes there can be difficulty being super vulnerable or super emotionally attached to somebody. You're somebody who really appreciates freedom, and in relationships, you just really want somebody who you feel is like an intellectual match for you and really like mentally stimulates you. And you're not really excited about people who you need to coddle or like baby or like nurture so much. You really are looking for somebody to be like an equal and keep you on your toes. Like you want to be stimulated and surprised. And the Aquarius Venus person usually is something like a little offbeat about their own like love language. They're either attracted to people who are kind of odd or unique, or they are the little bit odd and unique person. So you're a not like the Hallmark movie kind of romantic. You have something that is different about you and you like that to be seen. And you're looking for that in somebody else. You're really not looking for the run-of-the-mill kind of middle of the road romance story. You either want to be completely like swept off your feet in some romantic gesture, or you want to find somebody who is just so different that it's so refreshing. You're you're not you're not scared by people who are eccentric. You prefer it, and you might have something a little bit eccentric about yourself. You really like fall for the rebel, or you might be the rebel. You could be into the bad boys. You have this thing where you kind of like someone who knows the law and then challenges it a little bit. But for ultimate compatibility, you're going to want somebody who you feel like has values, stands for something, and that is ultimately aligned with you on either like political or humanitarian views, that you're on the same wavelength with them, um, that they actually do like have some sort of belief about things, that they're not just on the fence about everything. You don't love when your partners are really indecisive. You'd rather be arguing with them about why they believe that than hear that they don't believe in anything at all. So, I think I'll stop here because I feel like I've been talking a while, but let me know if you want to go into the other things because I can pull up those other points we were talking about. Um, you do have little, everybody has these points or asteroids or fixed stars. There's some more things that just talk more about like smaller areas of our life. And they're worth noting too, but I feel like if you're new to astrology or your own birth chart, see how the lines quickly get muddy here. And you don't want to take away from those core messages that we already talked about. So I would say kind of meditate on this for a while, see what comes up as far as questions or concerns. You have all these numbers are degrees. So you have a critical degree in Uranus and Sagittarius that is making a square to your Mars. That's interesting too. And a sextile. No, yeah, just squaring your Mars, that can be exciting. So a 0 degree is interesting to me because we call that a critical degree. So it's a new energy for you in this lifetime, and it comes in kind of like a bang. Uranus is not always that interesting unless it's doing something, because it's kind of like our house of chaos, like where things can get turned around. Um, but it's not a personal planet, so you can get to where it doesn't matter so much unless it's touching something. But for you, I feel like it does matter because you have this Aquarius energy about you, and Uranus rules Aquarius, and now it's in 0 degrees in Sagittarius that is also heavy for you. So I just feel like you can get really excited about things. It looks like it's squaring your sun here, not your Mars. But it can get you that channel open for getting downloads, like spiritual downloads. Really, like you could have these real moments of genius, or you could have a really um strong view on something that is not seen as the norm, like a revolutionary idea that you want to pursue things. And then the 11th house, that could be like our friendships or our groups where we um like organizations that we identify with, which is naturally ruled by Aquarius. So it's a really good place for Uranus to be. It would suggest that you would do really good exploring groups or have friends who also have views that are not accepted. They're unconventional of some sort. Is there something, it could be environmental, humanitarian, something that you see that needs to be done. You have the ability to really persuade people to look into causes that you care about, groups of people to get them to see things, to innovate the way they always used to do things, to do it the way that you see it, because people don't always see things the way you do. And you have a really big opportunity to flex that muscle, like explain to people how you see things differently and get them excited about it too. It's a gift to, I mean, it can be a challenge because people don't like to change, but you bring this energy of, I'm going to make you see things differently, and we're going to shake tradition here, and we're going to make room for new ways of doing things. And then ultimately, that's how we all do change, is because somebody said we actually could do it better this way. Like you have a really big chance of being that person. But okay, that I think that was the last thing I want to talk about. But let me know, and I'm happy to go over other things too, but see how this went. And thank you for letting me read your chart.